So thanks for joining me in this session here. I'll go through what we're about to talk about shortly. There will be a Q&A at the end of the session, so feel free to store any questions up and ask them at that point. I'm also talking at 4 o'clock at Keynote A with Alex Falcon and Andrew van der Beek. So if you like this session and want to hear something else with a different spin, come along. There's going to be some drinks served at Keynote A at 4 o'clock. So you can also see my Twitter handle and hashtag Accountex there at the bottom. So if you're an avid tweeter on social media, then please tweet along or follow me as and when we go through. So who am I and why am I talking to you about how to become a kick-ass CFO? So I've only ever worked in practice. I've worked about 20 years in practice. A couple of those were at a small firm, 16 of them were at PwC, and the last 2 were in a firm called Flinder, which I set up 2 years ago. And I'll go on to talk about that a little bit more and some of the nuances. As I'm looking around the room in the front of the audience here, I see people that are finance directors, finance managers, head of finance. So you're probably wondering, this guy's never been in industry. He's never been in my shoes. How is he able to tell me and talk to me about being a CFO, or a kick-ass one as well? Well, over those 20 years, I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and the downright fucking terrible in terms of finance functions across those 20 years. I've worked across continents. I've worked for PwC for 16 years. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of organizations at both sides of the size spectrum. So from very, very small organizations to some of the world's largest businesses. I've seen organizations, as I say, that do it well, that do it bad, that do it indifferently. And so all along that route, picked up, understand what the best are doing and actually encourage and work with those businesses that haven't been doing it well to transform them. Part of that stint at PwC was in our consulting practice, where we transformed finance functions. We transformed them from archaic organizations, improved their processes, focused on their people, the culture, how you train those people, put in better technology, and worked with data, all in all, to become a much more efficient, better controlled finance function, delivering much better management information and insight. And that's what this is. This is what we're focusing on. We're talking about insight here in this talk. So I mentioned Flinder. So 2 years ago, I set up Flinder with my business partner, Luke Streeter, who was also with me at PwC. Our raison d'etre, our reason for being at Flinder, is all about delivering rich management information for our clients to be able to make better informed management decisions. And ultimately, it's similar for you guys in industry in terms of delivering much more actionable insight for the business to make better decisions. We're not focused on compliance. I'm sure some of you, compliance is what's taking you, a significant amount of time each month. But it's not about compliance. Compliance is something that has to be done. But the business probably wants, I'm assuming from the businesses and organizations we talk to, the business wants better insight to make better informed decisions to reach their objectives. So that's what we are, that's what we do, and that's why I'm here talking to you about it, because we've seen it time and time again. We've worked with large organizations across the world and organizations of different shapes and sizes. Quite simply, at Flinder, we work with finance functions. We run finance functions for our clients. We're a fully embedded solution. We transform finance functions for larger SMEs, maybe 15 people in the organization. We run data analytics for our clients. We do this, we live and breathe it. And we mentor CFOs as well. So again, we get that information, that feedback at the coalface from CFOs and finance directors. So who is this session actually for? So I can read on the front row where people are and what the roles are. But we're just after lunch, so a bit of energy into the room maybe. So probably 3 types of people in the room. So hands up those that are accountants in industry in the room, please. Okay, and thanks, put your hands up. Hands up those who are accountants in practice in the room. Okay, so there's a few. Any group that I've not missed? Are there any tech people in here that aren't missed? There's one tech person at the back. Yay! Oh, another one over there. Brilliant. So it gives me a feel of who's in the room and pitching that. But actually, this session is relevant to very relevant to CFOs in business, FDs, heads of finance, those wanting to improve the reporting and work better with the business. Equally, for those accountants in practice, this session is very relevant for you as well, because there's a paradigm shift at the moment whereby practices are learning from industry and they want to move up that value curve and provide that more CFO advisory, value-added activities and business partnering. So also very relevant for you for shifting from the just compliance focus to that kind of more value-added business partnering support. Anyone think they're in entirely the wrong room altogether? Okay, that's a good start then. So 4 key takeaways from this session. First one, we're going to go through a couple of frameworks. So the first key takeaway, we're going to walk through our 9 pillars of finance function excellence. This is the way we view, and this is again coming back to 20 years, or actually 25 years collectively between myself and Luke, and probably more than that as well. The way we view a finance function. There are 9 different aspects we benchmark a finance function, and we focus on trying to improve the finance functions we work with. And that's whether we run it ourselves or whether we work with businesses and help them transform it as well. First key takeaway. Second, we're going to walk through our view of the reporting maturity curve from 0 information up to leading practice management information and everything in between that. And some of it you'll kind of appreciate where maybe you are on that reporting curve, and if you want to move towards the right of that reporting curve, other things you might need to do. I also hope you're going to take away the 6 key principles of leading practice management information. And there's 6 key things you can take away and focus on tomorrow as to how you could perhaps apply them in your business and deliver better insight to the board, to management. And then we're going to deep dive on one of those principles, which is around business-wide heterogeneous data mashing, which is a really fucking cool term I love to say, but I'll explain what that means and I will deep dive into an example and why that's important in the business and the benefits of that for you to take to the business. And then we're also going to go through 5 quick tips as well to improve your reporting. So, right. There we go. Love it when technology works, right? We're talking about technology and data here and it not working. So, at the heart of every finance organization or finance function is the strategy and the vision. And these are our first 2 pillars of our 9 pillars of an effective finance function. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I talking about fluffy things like vision and strategies to a bunch of accountants? But this is really important, it's where it all starts. And so I would say, hands up in the audience, who knows what exactly the business vision and the business strategy is in their organization? So there's probably maybe about 25% of you or thereabouts, which is actually pretty impressive to see that, because normally the expectation is a little bit lower. But this comes back to finance really being aligned to the business. There is only one vision, there is only one strategy in an organization, and that's the strategy of the business. Finance is there to support, drive, and challenge that. Yes, they need their own vision and strategy, but it needs to be aligned to the business strategy and the business vision. How many people in the room have a finance vision and a finance strategy? Okay, so much fewer, probably about 10% thereabouts. The ones that put your hands up, are they aligned to the business vision and the business strategy? If you did, put your hands up, yeah, so. Oh, one person shrugged, so maybe you don't know your business strategy, I don't know, yeah. So already on our first pillar, our first couple of pillars around finance function excellence, we've got a room that doesn't have a vision or a strategy that's aligned to the business. You could argue, what's finance doing then? Probably reporting on factual P&L numbers, historically looking. Is it really giving the business the information they need to make actionable decisions? So moving along to the other pillars in our finance function, the way we view the finance function. There we go. Okay, well, we'll just put them all up now because technology doesn't seem to be working for me. Anyway, so there are three competing demands of finance, and that's around being efficient, being well controlled, and delivering insight to the business. I mentioned earlier, as a business and as finance functions, we should really be delivering much greater insight for the business to make better decisions. But these are competing demands of finance. If you are so well controlled, it's at the expense of being efficient. If you're checking, triple checking, quadruple checking reconciliations, it impacts your efficiency. And if you're inefficient, you don't have the time to be interpreting that information and delivering much richer meaning to the business to make those decisions. If you haven't grasped it yet, it's all about better decision making. Yes, we're probably all accountants, we're probably all risk averse, we're probably very, very comfortable with spreadsheets, with control, with reporting that way, but it's about driving actionable business decisions. And so the three competing demands of efficiency, control, and insight really come back to what's the vision for the business, what's the vision for the finance function, and marrying those up. Is it a case of the business wants to be a lean, data-driven machine, or is it the business wants to be very compliant? And so that vision then plays into the amount of resources you put into those three different competing demands. No two businesses will be the same, no two businesses will be exactly the same, but there's a balance there, and understanding where you sit on that balance between efficiency, transactional processing efficiency, control, and insight is very important. We benchmark clients in this regard. We call those our value drivers, so it's the value finance delivers. And then we have our enabling foundations, which really support those value drivers, which is around people, processes, technology, and data. So, from a people perspective, do you have the right people in role? Do you have the right culture, the right skills to drive what you want from finance? Do you have the right people to grow? Do you have the right infrastructure there? From a process perspective, are your processes streamlined? Are they harmonized? Are you leveraging technology as much as possible? Are you doing off-system consolidations, reconciliations, where you could be using finance applications to do this for OCR, for workflow? How are you leveraging technology? Who in the room is using RPA, robotic process automation? Other than the two people in my firm that put their hand up, no one. Large organizations are doing this. Some about 85% of large organizations are either using or will be used or looking to use robotics in the next 12 months. So understanding where you are from a technology space versus other organizations of similar size. And these don't have to be large organizations. Robotics is not that, okay, maybe it is quite complicated, but it's not prohibitive to smaller organizations. I would argue smaller organizations are more agile and they're much easier able to adapt to new technologies. But how are we using technology? So again, one of our pillars of understanding or evaluating an effective finance function. And then data. Data is the latest, it's a commodity at the moment, and it can really, really drive us ahead of our competitors. So how is the finance function leveraging and using data, not just in finance, but across the business? And that's the example we'll deep dive into when we get through that. But data is very important. It's very important to have clean data. Data taxonomies are set up properly, appropriately, and give us what we want at the back end. So this is the way we view the finance function across these 9 pillars. So that's the finance function the CFO runs and controls and delivers an output to the business. The CFO, who we're representing here, whether we're the CFO, the head of finance, or accountant in practice, has many, many challenges. Reporting every month, maybe every week, maybe more frequently than that, and we'll talk about that. This governance and control, I did talk about control being one of the value drivers. It absolutely is. We need to be well controlled. It's what we do. That role of finance isn't disappearing soon. Yes, it might be automated or much more automated, but actually it's still there. We are still that governance role. Investment, investors, funding, M&A, acquisitions, the role of the CFO. looking after legal. Quite often the CFO inherits legal as one of the functions, inherits HR as one of those functions. Many, many things the CFO has to do. And that's just getting even more complicated, and even more things are being put onto the CFO's plate because of that unique skill set that we have. So things like performance improvement projects and transformations, not just in finance, but across the entire business. The CFO is responsible and driving part of that change. I mentioned earlier about the vision and the strategy. More and more, the CFO is being dragged and pulled into the corporate strategy, which he absolutely should be. But the CFO, and I say he just as the neutral gender, by the way, not to offend anyone. It's just the neutral gender. The corporate strategy absolutely should have that seat at the table and drive the business performance, and rather move from this more finance officer perspective, this more kind of reporting mentality, to a performance officer in the business. IT and cybersecurity, again, the CFO or the head of finance is inherited that role. And this back to this buzzword of data, owning the data in the business, owning the data within finance. We're going to pick up specifically on reporting now, and because this is one area that we can significantly streamline and significantly improve on for the business to make better decisions. This is our reporting maturity curve. At one end of the spectrum, we have zero reporting. Day zero, yeah? And actually, some organizations, we've seen this as well, right? On the other end of the spectrum, it's just cut off a little bit on the perspective there, we have rich, real-time, next-generation reporting aligned to the business and the business objectives that's user-friendly. Very, very important. We'll come back to user-friendly. Two ends of the spectrum. This is a little bit like how it looks on the far right-hand side of the spectrum, just to give you a feel for it. We'll dig into an example of this, so it's not purely theoretical, we'll walk through an example. But something that's real-time, delivered every 5 minutes, contains multiple data sources, financial, operational data, easy on the eye, people can visually see it and experience it. So going back to the maturity curve, we start with no information. And then we move on through the reporting. We start to prepare information, it becomes very, very time-consuming. Who in the room feels that their management reporting is time-consuming and laborious? Yeah, I see some nods for the people that didn't put their hands up, but most people, I think, would agree with that. And we go from no information to regurgitating everything, because we just want to deliver everything and over-deliver. But actually, that's no use to the business either. We can't distill it down. And so we go from nothing to everything. And because of that, we're delivering it very late. Who's ever delivered a report late? I'd be very surprised if no one has. But, hopefully people are recognizing these. No information, too much information, delivering it late. We'll get onto Excel in a minute. And then we have the complexity and the challenge of data coming from different sources and having multiple sources of the truth. Who's ever sat in a management meeting where finance has one number for revenue from the finance system, sales has another number for revenue from the CRM system, and then you've probably got someone else from a flash report with a different number for revenue for every week, adding up to the month? There's no one version of the truth. And so that's a huge challenge for businesses. And because of that, well, we're going to a minute, they lack confidence. But Excel, probably the most overused finance system around the world. Who doesn't use Excel? Anyone doesn't use Excel in their business? Yeah, everybody. So we're grabbing data from different applications. We're grabbing data from, trying to distill it down to the right amount of information, putting it in an Excel. We're probably rushing around at the end of the month, trying to pull it in. Someone tells us something's changed. We've got to go through all that process again. We've got to reconcile. We've got to produce. And it's probably just wrong what we're delivering in the end, but it's all Excel based. And because of that, we sit there. We struggle with the fact there are multiple sources of the truth. We struggle with the fact it's in Excel, and there's, 88% of spreadsheets have an error in it of some degree. And normally, in the cases that I've seen, the person preparing it never spots it, but within 5 seconds of a report going down, the CEO probably spots it. And therefore, he's got absolutely zero confidence in what he's looking at is right and cannot make decisions. So you spend the whole meeting debating whether it's right or wrong, what the right numbers are, rather than actually taking it for granted and having a stronger, more strategic conversation based on that. And then if we've got all that right, we're actually probably only talking about finance information. We're not talking about other aspects. Finance is only one side of the coin. To add real richness and depth and understanding, we bring in other non-financial operational data. Finance data tells us what has happened. It doesn't tell us why it's happened. And we're more interested in the why, so we can replicate that or change that. That is the more important aspect. And if we've finally done that and actually brought in operational data, it's probably not even aligned to the strategy. There were a few people that put their hand up, so brilliant, hands down to you. But we're probably delivering something that doesn't give us the full oversight of what we need to make those better decisions aligned to our strategy. KPIs aligned to our vision, our objectives. How about that? And then if we manage to do all that, it's aligned to the strategy, we get it right, people have confidence, we're delivering it, and we're so proud of ourselves because we delivered it on time, but we don't actually spend any time interpreting what's going on in it. We spend all that time preparing it, bashing Excel, getting down the right information, nailing it, and we've probably not actually looked at it and understood what it means. And I cannot have those strategic conversations and recommendations and challenges to the different functions or the CEO. And then we have what we define as utopia: rich, real-time data analytics, aligned to the business and easy to use. So it's hard, right? All those stages are hard, and no one's got it right in the room. These are the reporting challenges. Obviously you'll kind of have felt some of them as we went through it, and I saw lots of heads nodding, especially around the last one in terms of the split of time between preparation and interpretation. But getting to the top of that chart is hard. It's new for many people. There's change management involved. It's a behavioral shift. We're all so comfortable with Excel. We've grown up with it. We're comfortable with finance numbers and finance concept. We've grown up with it. But having those deeper conversations with the business, moving away from Excel, leveraging technology, that requires change and change management. It requires implementing new technologies, and that's difficult. There are new skills needed: digital skills, technology skills, communication skills. Stereotypical accountants are probably not renowned for being good communicators, and communication's two-way, and it's questioning, it's probing. So there's an element around business partnering, the commercial skills needed to have those conversations. You don't know what you don't know, so how good is good? What is best practice? What can we do? What are others doing? It's probably quite a lonely position the CFO has in his organization. He's probably on his own, unless he's in a peer group, peer network. He's got a unique position in the business, and so unless he has those other peers to bounce it off, or has done it before, you don't know what you don't know. So, what does good look like? And then we just talked about how busy we are. Even more time to implement another change project, another program. Where's that going to come from? So there are lots of challenges. And I would say overall, it's just fucking hard to do. But the benefits of getting it right far outweigh the challenges. Everyone, yeah. It's not the easiest to see on screen, that green. Shifting time from preparation to interpretation. We're comfortable with Excel, we're comfortable with those skills, but actually, wouldn't we probably prefer to interpret the information more and to do something that's more proactive with the business and add that value in the board meetings and be seen as a superstar with the CEO, the board, or the management team? Getting it right gives us much deeper insights. We can have those constructive conversations. We get excited about actually really, really helping the business grow, concentrating and focusing on those markets, those customers. What is it that's actually driving it? And see the change and be involved and part of that. It's going to be a much more rewarding and enriched experience of doing that as well, compared to just being an Excel jockey largely. Overall, hopefully it'll give more time, less stress, and maybe, just maybe, it'll get you home at month end a little bit earlier. But the goal here isn't just to provide pretty information. The goal here is to turn data into information and information into actionable insight for the business to make better decisions. It's about better decisions. I love that quote. I think it's perfect. So moving on to our 6 principles of leading practice MI. We have, I mentioned before, on the top right of the chart, we have rich, real-time, integrated, business-wide, aligned to the management information, aligned to the strategy that is user-friendly. So the first one, rich. What do I mean by rich? Well, I'm talking here about segmented information, segmented data. So if you deliver revenue, it doesn't really tell us much about what's going on. But if you deliver revenue segmented by customer, segmented by channel, segmented by this, that, and the other, by country, it's much richer. It gives us deeper segmentation to understand the parts of the business, and not just revenue, could be gross margin, could be et cetera, et cetera. It gives us much deeper understanding about what's going on in that business, because revenue, or whatever level you're categorizing it at initially, can masquerade what's really going on in the business. So this is very, very important to look at the data taxonomies and how things are being set up in a finance or operational system, so you can slice and dice that data at the end of the day for management information. Real time, pretty self-explanatory, but leading organizations are getting information every 5 minutes. Not 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the end of the month. They're getting it every 5 minutes. Now clearly, some financing, despite what some of the great tech companies out there are saying in terms of real-time accounting, it doesn't exist in reality in terms of payroll comes in through journals, depreciation, all at month end. But you can have real-time analytics on part of your business. Sales, for example, that'll come through an EPOS system or a website or something like that. You can have that sliced and diced and delivered back to you every 5 minutes so you can stay on the pulse. Businesses are doing this. Small businesses are doing this. Integrated. It goes without saying that you're linking up core applications, so you don't have to take data extracts in CSV or Excel, piece them together, do all that mashing and playing around manually where there's probably 88% of them is an error. So integrating the applications all in one to have a single source of the truth is very important as well in terms of leading practice MI. And the one we'll dive in a little bit more to in a second is business-wide or heterogeneous data and data sources. You can see here, or maybe the people at front can see here, we've got a finance system, another database, Facebook, a CRM application. This is where we're bringing multiple systems into the data set to do something richer with it and give more business-wide information. It's not just finance, not just one side of the coin, it's both sides. So we can deliver the why, not just the what has happened. I mentioned aligned to the strategy. Clearly, if we're delivering something that's not aligned to the strategy, how useful and beneficial is it? And arguably, the most important out of the six, is user-friendly. Because if you nail all the other 5, if it's not user-friendly, it's not going to get used. No one's going to read it. Maybe we're delivering to people that enjoy accounting. They like looking at numbers in black and white. But actually, maybe we're delivering to someone in the business that's got more of an entrepreneurial mindset, that likes rich, colorful charts to call out and tell them and show them what's going on in the business. So understanding your stakeholder groups when you're designing management information is very, very important as well. And it's our 6th key principle of leading practice management information. So I mentioned this word heterogeneous. So what does heterogeneous mean? So very, very simple Oxford English Dictionary meaning here. It means diverse in character or content. So what does that mean for us as accountants when we talk about data? Well, it can mean different data sources. It can mean a finance system. It can mean a CRM. It can mean an EPOS system. It can mean a website. It's coming from different sources. Most accountants, most heads of finance deal with finance applications only, but go outside that sphere, because remember, we're delivering business-wide management information. It can also mean it's different in character or content. So, it also means it's different in character. So we could be dealing from our finance system, typically we download an Excel or a CSV, but actually if we're bringing in data that's integrated, we might be bringing it in a JSON or an XML or a CSV file, phrases and words that many of you probably aren't familiar with as accountants, and that's again moving into that digital data savvy area that I mentioned earlier. So let me show you an example. So here's a real life example of one of our clients. So I'm going to show you the schematic in terms of how many data sources are here. Some of these things you'll be very, very familiar with in terms of the business, as to what's delivered. We've got some very financially focused reporting here, cash management, working capital, actuals v forecast. We've got we start to then segment some of the information on this client. So that's around different data sources by slicing and dicing by different business units. So whether it's online, whether it's showroom, whether it's trade. And when we're looking at things like average order value, number of visits, conversion rates, pipeline, conversion rates across different business units, different channels, all that stuff starts to enrich what's going on in the business to make better decisions. So what are the sources we're using to do this? So first off, we've got an inventory WMS, operational point of sale system, that we're understanding, and we're grabbing things like customer numbers from. Okay, so we're grabbing customer numbers from there. We've got Xero as a finance system. We've got our budget, and you know, I shame to say we have a budget in Excel, but we do, and there's a longer explanation as to that. But we've already got 3 data sources here, and actually there are many more available in the business. We've got daily footfall coming into the store that's being recorded on a Google Sheet. So that's a live document that feeds into a reporting system live. That sort of thing can calculate average order value, can calculate number of visits in that showroom channel. We've got traffic coming to the website. So where we've got traffic coming to the store, we've got traffic coming to the website. Again, used to understand our conversion rate in a different segmentation. We've got a CRM system to understand what our pipeline looks like. And then we've got some social data, so the client can also understand kind of what's going on in terms of social activity. So here you can see we've got heterogeneous data sources being brought in to deliver very rich information for this organization. And then we're pulling all this together and mashing it in our own environment. And then we're putting it into a very rich dashboard for the client to be able to log in any point in time, day of the week, hour of the day, to see what's going on in the business. That's really powerful. That's finger on the pulse stuff. And this is a quote from that client. And this, I want you all to have quotes like this from your CEOs or your board. Hugely, hugely valuable. We could not run our business without it. That is what, as finance professionals, we aspire to deliver to our stakeholders. So I'm going to show you an example here. So this is an example. It's live. Let's hope the 4G still works here at the Excel Center. So this is, it's not live because it's on my screen live. Let me. There we go. Right, we got a live dashboard, of what's going on in the business. Okay, so it's a little bit off the side. Accountex, April 2019. We're on the 1st of May. We're super efficient. We closed the books already, right? So here we go. These are our numbers from January through to April. Let me just take this off the screen here. All right. So this is just a replica of this one here. Essentially, January, February, March, April revenue. Up here in the top right, we've got April revenue, 135,000, March 132. It's green, very visual. Tells us green is good, red is bad. Typical traffic lights. It's up on last month. If we had a better example or a more detailed example, it would have budget in there as well. We've got number of customers, so our first non-financial set of information in there. Again, number of customers, paying customers, up on last month, so again, it's green. So it looks pretty rosy as it stands, probably doing a pretty good job. You know, we're reporting this, business looks like it's doing well. What do we need to improve? Revenue's up month on month. Brilliant. So let's bring in online customers. You can see it's dipped in February a little bit, back up on the trajectory. February's a shorter month, 28 days, 31 in January. Maybe it's a retail client, So maybe that's it, but overall the trend is February, March, April going up. Web traffic, again, bit of a dip, going back up again. So already you can start to look at it and think, I wonder why February's gone down in terms of web traffic, in terms of customers, even though revenue looks like it's going up. So we take these off. They're obviously a non-financial data source. But let's look at online conversion. Interestingly, our online conversion has gone down. So maybe we're not doing as well as we thought we were. So revenue's gone up, online conversion's gone down. That's not so great. Interesting though, isn't it? Because we can start to dissect and actually ask questions around the conversion. Average order value. So the basket price someone's buying on a website is also gone down. It's gone from £278 in February to £258 in April. This client actually has an objective around increasing their average order value and increasing their conversion. So on the face of it, while revenue looked like it was going up, two of their objectives have not been met because they've been going down and reduced. So if I flick back to the presentation, we had revenue, which we were looking in isolation, thinking it was all rosy and things were going in the right direction for the business. But if we break revenue down and look at it as the subcomponents and financial and non-financial data, well, we have our number of customers that are buying and we have our average order value. That's basically what revenue is. It's the two multiplied with one another. And if we look at our average order value, why would it have gone down? What influences our average order value? Things like the customer journey on the website. The product range influences it. What is the average price point we are actually putting out there to our prospective customers? Product placement on the homepage. Is that what type of value of prices are on our homepage? What does that look like? And checkout upselling. None of these are really financially focused. But what it's doing is letting us dig into the components of revenue and understand it more. Also, for number of customers, our traffic and our conversion rate is largely what drives our number of customers. Now we saw our traffic was increasing, our traffic was good, but actually our conversion rate was falling. So whilst we might have been able to look in isolation at our number of customers, now we can subdivide it and understand the two components of it and then really dig into it because we've got those metrics and we can give it back to the business. And in terms of traffic, there are components of ranking, amount we spend on different platforms, the platform itself, and conversion rate, user experience. What's the quality of the product images that are on the website? Once we've got the traffic there, how likely are they to convert? How good are the product descriptions? How aligned is it from someone that's clicking a link or an advert to actually buying? What's that look like? And so, if you look at this, largely, we've got revenue, which is financial, and average order value, which is part financial. The rest is operational. But if we give the business that information, that insight, not what has changed, but why has it changed, allows the business to go away and look at these in a lot more detail. And actually, if I go back to my example, in the second chart, you see this is the exact same revenue we had as the top one. I'm about to show you the impact of the additional revenue. If we did have the same conversion rate and we had the same average order value in March and April as we did in our optimum months, we would have this much more revenue. So 15 grand over 140, so just shy of 10% more, because we started to dig in and use heterogeneous data mashing to understand what's really going on in the business. Not what's changed, but why has it changed? So, almost finished. 5 bonus tips really to improve your MI. Well, we've talked a lot about our 6 key principles, our 9 pillars, so you can look at your finance function overall. But your management information, you're delivering it to someone. Find out what they want. Who are your stakeholders? Who are those stakeholder groups? Understand what they want and deliver it to them. The first pillar of finance function is around vision. The second is around the strategy. Align your management information to your overall business strategy and deliver on something that people can make decisions on that's actually relevant to the business strategy. Understanding your stakeholder group, you'll understand whether you need to bring those visualizations to life or not. Our view is most people like to see that. Very few people like to see numbers, just plain numbers these days. Leverage technology as much as possible. Connect data sources through application programming interfaces so you can deliver real-time information to your board, to your management team, even for yourselves to interpret it. And then obviously what we've been talking about, mash those financial and non-financial data sources together to deliver a much richer understanding of what's going on in the business. Give users what they're asking for. So, my key takeaways, your key takeaways, hopefully, you have an overview of our 9 pillars of a leading practice finance function. You've seen our reporting maturity curve, where it starts at 0, ends up at utopia in terms of rich real-time data analytics, maybe understanding where you are on that journey and types of things you may want to change. And the 6 key principles of leading practice management information, and we went deeper on heterogeneous business-wide information, and I showed you an example of how that can add value. The finance function can add value to the business. So I'd say go be a kick-ass CFO now. Any questions? And thank you very much for listening.